Hi everyone, I'm Tony Sigrist. I'm the founder of Talking Freely, and I just want to deal with something before I start this video, and that is that I'm far more comfortable talking to a room full of people than I am talking in an empty room to my computer screen. So if I look a little bit awkward, it's because I feel incredibly awkward. So I just wanted to get that one over and done with before we start. So the reason I'm tackling that awkwardness is because Talking Freely is now approaching its first birthday, and I wanted to reflect on how far we've come in our first year of operation. So we started Talking Freely, a small group of committed volunteers, last year, and the first meeting took place in a coffee shop in Ely. We haven't been coasting at all in our first year. I think we've had quite an energetic start, and what we've done really is we've been building an organisation. So we've been creating something that's recognisable, but all the minutiae of administrative tasks that don't necessarily get seen, but make up an organisation that can operate ethically and legally. In the way things are done these days. But as well as that, we've been working hard to build our community, both online and the people who come to our events. And also not just with the public, the people we reach out and encourage to talk freely, but with other organisations, other people in the mental health sector, people who can influence change and decision making in our local community. So some of the highlights of what we've done over the last year: we've built an online presence, so we have Twitter, Instagram and Facebook presence now, and we've got over 1,000 followers across those three platforms, which is excellent, a really good start. We've held 4 Talking volunteer workshops, and we've trained around 50 volunteers at those. We've held 5 events, and at those 5 events we've hosted now 10 speakers, including several published authors and people who have quite a high profile in the world of mental health. We've raised awareness of several local support organisations by inviting them to our events and having a physical presence at our various events. Some of them have done talks, and there's more of that planned as well. We've had more conversations about mental health in our pop-up cafes than I can count. I guess the real measure, the one statistic that I'd really like to give you, is how many cups of tea and slices of cake we've served. But unfortunately we haven't kept a track of that, but I can tell you it's a lot. So we've had a big impact, I think. We've had a big impact in the local community, and part of running an organisation, part of what I will have to do at some point in time to justify our existence, is to provide statistics and official outcome measures, etc., about exactly how we've made that impact. But I think for me, the biggest measure of the impact we've had is that people stop me in the street, in the supermarket, in public spaces, and they tell me what they think of Talking Freely, and it's all positive, and they thank me and the team for what we've done and ask us to carry on, and I think that says more than statistics can ever say, really. So the big question for me is, we're a year in, and where do we go next? We've dipped our toe into a couple of different projects. Recently we pitched successfully at Ely Soup and received a very generous donation, and we have invested that money in creating a mobile cafe so that we can take Talking Freely out into public or private events. And the sort of things I have in mind are things like Aquafest or the various feast days, etc., but that will go wherever we're asked to go, really. At present we are managing admin behind all of that, but I'm hoping that the project will be open and we can start pushing it and even taking bookings in the very near future. We've also worked in January with Ely College and did a project to take Talking Freely into the schools and deliver our messages to a younger audience, which is really important. That was a very successful project, and we are now in negotiation with Soham Village College around doing something similar with them. And finally, we are looking at how we can bridge the gap between our events. So we Talk Freely now every 4 months at Ely Cathedral Conference Centre, and those dates are confirmed right to the end of 2019. But we're looking at how we can continue to support the conversations in between those events. And one of the things we're looking at is establishing smaller peer support groups that you can drop into that would meet more regularly. So these are the sorts of things that we're working on, we're keen to develop. I should say we're not short of ideas, nor are we short of ideas brought to us by other people. The problem is that my initial reaction when somebody says, hey, why don't we start a peer support group? It sounds like a really simple thing, and my reaction to that is, yeah, let's do it. Let's do that. Because on the surface, it doesn't feel like it's a difficult thing. We find a room, we find people who want to come, and it's as simple as that. Unfortunately, it is never that simple, and every small task seems to create a myriad of other smaller tasks. And the unfortunate reality behind what we're doing is that it's the tasks and the managing the projects that takes the time, and it takes money. And they're the two things that we lack the most at Talking Freely. I'm very proud to say that we are still an organisation that is run entirely by volunteers and entirely by public donations, but it brings its own limits. And at some point in time, if we're going to expand and bring our projects to fruition and make them have a long-lasting impact in the community, that's something we're going to have to address, and that'll be a priority in the coming months. And what I want to impress is that we're not asking you, our Talking Freely community, to take that on, though I wouldn't be offended by anyone who wants to offer any help in helping us to establish a really solid organisational structure. What we need from our community is simply that you continue to support us. So tell your friends about us, tell your customers about us, tell your local MPs and your local councillors about us. Tell everybody about us, because the more people that know about us, the more people who are talking about us. And the one thing that we've demonstrated in the last year is how powerful a simple conversation will be. So if I'm going to prioritise anything over the coming year above anything else, it would be that small conversation simply gets louder. So thank you for all of your support, and I hope you will continue to come to our events and support us in the coming year.